questions.
Thank you very much. We'll begin our first round of questioning with my colleague, Monsieur Serret.
I'll be switching my time with Mr. Fraser. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Spengemann, for appearing today, but more importantly for putting forward this interesting and exciting private members bill. One of the things that I found striking in my experience on this committee, and although there are some notable exceptions, is it's striking how little men and boys are engaged in the discussion of gender equality. And I see a huge opportunity for men to take a leadership role in partnership with the women who've been championing gender equality for their careers. Can you perhaps elaborate on how having a Gender Equality Week can help provide a platform to engage men and boys in championing equality as well, or potentially educating young men and boys in the importance of their role in promoting equality in Canadian society?
Absolutely, and thank you very much for the question, and thank you for support of this bill at first and second reading. It is absolutely critical. Not only can governments not do it alone, but women can't do it alone. So men have to stand by the side of women on each aspect of this very complex issue that we have before us, and it does go all the way back to elementary school education. When I was first approached by one of the co-inspirators of the bill, the question was, can we do something in the field of education to put Gender Equality Week in primary and secondary school programming. That was a provincial issue, so I wasn't able to address it directly as a federal member of parliament, but the discussion then evolved to creating this project before you, Gender Equality Week, where through the declaration of a week, we can indeed inspire. We can't prescribe, but we can certainly inspire education to come online during that 1 week, and to make sure that all the way from the elementary level onwards, there are projects, there are focused discussions during that week on the issue of gender equality. Starting at a young age is very important. And there are other challenges, and I alluded to it in my discussion with respect to just economic opportunity. I think that in itself is an opportunity to bring men into the discussion in a substantively focused way, because the financial industry itself is male-dominated. And a recognition of the economic opportunity to create pay equity, for example, globally in the trillions of dollars, really is one vehicle by which to broaden the conversation to bring men to the table. So those are just two aspects. There's many others.
Excellent. And I noticed in the preamble of the bill and during your remarks this morning as well, you focused a little bit on sort of different sectors of the Canadian society, like Indigenous women, for an example. Could you explain perhaps how the intersectional nature of gender inequality could be remedied with the celebration of a Gender Equality Week?
I'm not sure I mean, it's very aspirational to talk about remedies right away, but I think what you're pointing to really is the opportunity to raise awareness. Not just on the part of men and boys, but to raise awareness of non-Indigenous Canadians, of the plight of our Indigenous population, and specifically Indigenous women. Some of that is making its way into curricula, into education, and again, education is the starting point, but also more broadly across society, to recognize that there are groups of women, Indigenous women being one of them, new Canadians of insular ethnocultural minorities being another, women seniors being a third group, that are even more profoundly affected by gender inequality than women at large. So I think that's very important, to really drill down into the details and develop some very concrete solutions for these sub-problems. And I think the GBA Plus initiative, the gender-based analysis that is now practiced in the federal government, is a very important step towards that goal.
One of the other items that you mentioned that resonates very well with me is the fact that Viola Desmond will be featured on the $10 bill. Just by coincidence, the incident that gave rise to her becoming a human rights icon in Canada took place in my hometown in New Glasgow. One of the things that I think is important, but perhaps understated, is the fact that symbolic gestures by a federal government or by members of society can actually lead to positive social change. Can you perhaps explain how either a Gender Equality Week or initiatives like putting a Canadian woman on currency can actually lead to a shift in attitudes over time in Canadian society?
Symbolism matters deeply. It's symbolism combined with action, really, that will provide the solutions. And it should be habitual that we see leading women on our Canadian symbols. And this is a very, very good start to have put the first Canadian woman on a banknote. It was absolutely well overdue, but necessary in a very deep sense to make progress. But it's not just symbolism. It's more than that. It's really looking, and this is where the 338 federal ridings come into play, right? This is really an opportunity for all of us around the table and all our colleagues in the House of Commons to look at our constituency, to see what symbols we have historically, locally, and what symbols we can still create, but then combine that with really concrete pathways to action. It may, as I said in my remarks, it may involve a protest, it may result in research by graduate students being profiled during Gender Equality Week on some of the data gaps that we have. I think that's another very important aspect of this bill that I didn't touch upon in my opening remarks, but we are missing some data, especially on the minority populations of women that are facing specific challenges.
Just very quickly then, as a final question as we wrap up here, the region that I represent is characterized by small towns and rural communities. Equality initiatives tend to benefit from the size of a population in a big urban center. What can small communities do to help celebrate gender equality during the week, assuming that this bill becomes law?
Again, it's up to us as federal parliamentarians to take some initiative to work with our organizers, our community leaders in small communities to see what can be done, what can be done physically. Social media is a great tool, but it's not limited to social media. And even small communities now have reach through various channels of communication and through Parliament itself and our provincial legislatures to be profiled more broadly and nationally. So I think that is very, very important work, that there isn't going to be a rural-urban divide on the issue of gender equality.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
All right. And so we'll go to my